Okay.
Curtis, I,
Christine.
I I would just start with roll call and then hopefully it's like Christina. Oh, she's here. So
Yep.
great,
I'm here.
great.
And we have Shauna as an excused absence.
Okay, Shauna's excused absence. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like we have quorum, so I guess we can get it started by doing roll call. Okay, so Tamara,
Tamara, yeah, I'm here.
Tamara, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Tamara.
No worries.
Okay, Sherry. Okay, no Sherry yet. Ruby,
Present.
Marvin,
Here.
Christina,
Here.
Ben,
I'm here.
Victoria,
Here.
Mustafa.
Present.
All righty. Well, we have quorum, ladies and gentlemen. Yay.
Welcome. And at this time, I would like for us to go around. I was going to start a little bit differently, but I would like for us to go around and just maybe share one thing that we do for self-care in this time of the world. Like for myself, my self-care is I gather supplies for mutual aid and I just drive around and hand out supplies to groups and people as my way of stress relief. And that is something I wanted to start us out with because we have a very heavy packed agenda today. So I will pass it to Tamara.
Perfect timing. I have been finding a lot of joy and pleasure at doing a lot of writing. I've been doing a lot of writing and visualization with AI, and I've been coming up with some brilliant stuff. At least I think is brilliant. That has been giving me like boundless amounts of joy, and so that's what I've been doing. And I'll call on Ruby.
So sorry about that. Hello. Hi. Yeah, I mean, I practice self-care through going to, DIY shows and trying to give to the community through art and through outreach and trying to just I also like to pick up trash. That's actually my favorite thing for self-care. That also gives out to the world because it's an immediate gratification for doing what you're doing. And I will call on Marvin.
Thanks, Ruby. My self-care is 18 years ago, we started building tiny house village, self-managed tiny house villages. And it gives me a lot of joy to help the next generation actually build new villages from the ground up. Speaking of Nicholsville and their Brighton Beach Village, which has undergone a major face uplift. So they got homestanding, they're running their own electricity, they're doing plumbing. It is great to see the skills that are in our community that we have yet figured out how to tap. So hopefully we continue to do so. Thanks. And I'll pass it to Victoria.
Yeah, one thing I like to do for self-care is I host a monthly crafting night with my friends, and we all just bring some crafts that we're working on together and have a nice space to be creative and be supportive to one another. And it's a really nice way to spend an evening. I'll pass to Ben.
Hey, I don't have time for self-care. I I just went to the gym while I was in a meeting, but I work 2 jobs and I'm in finals for my doctoral program. So I try to sleep, but it usually doesn't happen. But I'm done with finals on Friday, so that will change things, hopefully. Then I'll just be working 2 jobs. I don't know who hasn't gone yet. I'm so sorry. I could use an assist.
Mustafa hasn't gone yet.
Thank you. Mustafa?
I'm like Ben, I don't have now time to self-care because since the war, that is too much on me, and and I work at many jobs, but I used to do like go to the steam and sauna gym, swimming, feeding my squirrel. I have in the backyard all then, and the blue jays, the birds, do a lot of helping people, poor people, homeless people over internationally also. So, but now since the war, I'm like, because my family over there and it's really my relative. I mean, in Dubai and Qatar and Iraq, north of Iraq, and all the drone these things is happening. So I don't have time now. This is about 21 started. Thank you for listening. I don't know. I mean, Daniel. I'm gonna pass to Daniel. I believe so. He's not. Kelsey.
Yeah, I totally relate to Ben and Mustafa. I tend to focus a lot on work, but I keep my life simple outside of work. Just my kids, and they bring me. I go to the parks with them. I'm doing the things that they're doing, so in a way, I get to recharge that way. So I do get my rest in. And actually, am trying to go to bed before 11 each night, which is good. So um, that's how I'm doing it. Maybe hand it over to Kelsey.
Hi, y'all. Thanks for including me. Um, I would say recently trying to do more tactile things, so picking up embroidery, and reading, as well as watching my daughter grow and explore the world. And I think Catherine.
Oh, I didn't know that we were all going to be doing this. Gardening. I love being outside. I love having my hands in the dirt. So that brings me lots of joy. And has Sherry joined? I don't think so, but
No.
okay.
No, Curtis is, I think, our last person, correct?
Okay. What do I like to do for self-help? I go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. Yeah, that's kind of how I do my self-care. I do it through going to the gym. I'm not into meditating or anything like that. I'm still trying to work up to that. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you for asking.
I wanted to do that for our self-grounding today, that it's important that we just think of ourselves in this time of challenges. And then quickly, can Daniel, I don't have the land acknowledgement. Do you want to go ahead and read that quickly?
Oh, I don't have that up either, but I can pull it up.
I can read it. I have
Thank
it.
you. Thank you very much,
Oh,
Curtis.
thanks, Curtis.
Okay. Land acknowledgement. The King County Continuum of Care Board acknowledged that we work on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish people, especially the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, the original stewards of the land, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with unaccountable relationships and informed action, and is the first step in honoring the land that we today sit on and their peoples. Theory of change. If we create a homelessness response system that centers people who have lived experience of homelessness, then we will be able to meet needs and eliminate inequities in order to end homelessness for all.
Thank you very much. Marvin, would you like to open public comment?
Open public comment, I usually thought that was shared by the chairs, but welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you're in the waiting area or calling in, please raise your hand and let us know if you have public comment at this time. I would ask staff if they are noticing any folks. And then I have a procedural question for staff. Is our Q&A open during our meeting?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Not hearing or any public comment at this time, I'd like to remind the public that you can use the Q&A function if you have questions that arise during our meeting. Public
Next.
comment going once. Public comment going twice. Public comment going 3 times. I'll pass it back to Christina.
Thank you very much.
Can I interject really quick?
Yes.
Yes.
Can we do a motion to approve March's minute meeting?
Make the motion to approve March's meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor of approving March's minute meetings?
I think we have to do a roll call vote, right?
Yep, I'm gonna do the roll call. Yep.
And are there any edits or does anyone have any discussion over last month's meeting minutes? Not hearing or seeing any in the chat, I would say we should move forward with the roll call.
All righty. Okay, Tamara.
Aye.
Okay. Ruby,
Aye.
Marvin,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Ben,
I
Victoria,
Aye.
Mustafa.
Aye.
Okay, and Shauna is absent. All right.
Yep.
The motion passed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Next, we will move to the board update for this past month and start with, are there any, I don't think there is, Ruby, any charter work group updates?
Yeah, there is actually. I do have an update for.
Go ahead.
Sorry
thank
about
you.
that. Yeah,
No.
thanks. So the board actually met, we had a couple meetings. We had a retreat on Friday, March 27th, 2026 at the Douglas Truth Library in the beautiful Central District neighborhood. And then we had a couple speakers, started with William Towie, who's the Assistant Director of Strategy at the KCRHA. We also heard from Amelia Sanchez, which did a great training for OPMA. She's a city clerk for Seattle and also part of the oh my goodness, the Jurassic Parliament is the name of the organization. And we learned a little bit about Robert's rules, and which is like kind of the language of committees. And we also pushed back against some of those some of those rules, right, Tamara? And then we heard about a place called Denopolis. And so we did some mock committee meetings about a place called Pickle Fest. And so that was definitely an interesting, fun, and educational thing that we had. We also did a community building. We learned about what's important to our board members adjacent from the work that we do, just by, talking about art and what they kind of artistic things they enjoy. We also had our board meeting on the 1st of April. And there we did hear a charter work group update. It's been started back up and going to be meeting again this Friday. The other update that I have is that we stood up a committee to do the, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, the board elections, the selection committee. So we do have applications open for new board members until May 4th, and you can find that on our CoC webpage. We also have, our last update is that we did some strategizing or heard about some strategies on the reallocation process for this year's NOFO, and a housing inventory count, point in time count update. And lastly, we went over some system performance measures with Daniel. And that's kind of the board update for right now. The next meeting is going to be in May. I believe it's May 4th. I believe it's that first Wednesday from 2 to 4. Thank you.
Do you also, you said you had a pit update too?
It was a brief pit update, but we did hear from Ewan. He came and spoke to us a little bit about the process and where we're at in that process. We also had a debrief today for the pit count people that volunteered at hub sites. So that was an interesting bit too.
Thank you. And Daniel, is there any coordinated entry update that we know of?
No, I don't have any updates in particular about coordinated entry. No, nothing on my, yes.
Yep, and I will reiterate again, we are looking for CoC members. The application is online, and as well as we'll be looking for SPC members too, to fill all our quotas here too, or that. So next, we will move to Kelsey and the NOFO update.
And things like that. So we'll be working on the training of if we see blood, vomit, feces.
Thank you. And if folks could please mute, there's a little bit of background noise happening. Thank you. Hi, all. So this is a follow-up from the information that we shared with you. I am walking and I'm gonna slow down so I don't wind myself. Want to provide you all opportunity to engage in our NOFA rating criteria. We shared with you last month that we are looking at making some updates and changes to the criteria for fiscal year 26 competition, and want to walk through what some of the recommendations are, what the current metrics are, and have an opportunity to kind of check in with you all around the plan, where we're going, and what we're thinking. Today is not a place where we will ask you to vote on anything. This is really an opportunity to engage in what we are thinking and presenting, and getting input. So I am going to pull up my slides so we can dig into that. This is likely going to be a hefty presentation. So as there are questions, please bring those. Want to make sure that information is clear. So as we're going, please feel free to interrupt me, to ask questions, so we can really engage in dialogue. So first of all, hello, Kelsey Beckmeyer, CoC manager with KCRHA. Claire is not joining us. I kind of let her be off the hook for today. Some of the things that she put together are on measures that we may actually recommend not including in fiscal year 26, and want to internally kind of dig into that a little bit more before we bring that to you. So some of the work that she did may come back to you all in our May presentation. So just want to give a little bit of clarification there as to why it's just me right now. So the purpose of today, again, is to really work to familiarize you all with our current criteria. We also want to have a kind of shared and clear understanding around kind of the purpose and rationale that KCRHA has used to bring forth some of the recommended changes to rating criteria. With that, we want to get y'all's input. And if there are other ideas or other things that we should be considering when it comes to some of the rating criteria. The focus today is really on data-driven criteria. So this is on measures that are derived from HMIS, that are system performance measures, as well as other outside of HMIS data-driven criteria. So that's really the focus for today. Subsequent meetings will be talking about different types of criteria that are included. But today is really on the criteria for renewing projects, so currently funded projects that are applying to be renewed, and how we evaluate those projects based on HMIS data and other fact-based data-driven information. I will say data a lot today. Anchoring you in kind of what we are hoping to both glean from you all and apply that information. We want to aim to incorporate any changes you all bring into our kind of final criteria recommendations. We will ultimately need to do a detailed review of the NOFO once it is published, as there may be required changes that the NOFO points to. So anything now could change once the NOFO is published. But we want to kind of get as far ahead as we can so that once we do see the NOFO, there's not too much substantial change we need to make. The aim for a vote on the final criteria is likely going to be in June. Again, this will be dependent upon when the NOFO is actually published by HUD. We anticipate early June. It could be at another date. So we may need to maintain some flexibility. The goal is a final vote in June, potentially in July. Why are we even doing this? So our HMIS rating criteria has not been significantly changed or updated in more than 6 years. So we want to make sure we're making that our metrics are really data informed with what's currently going on, while continuing to have a clear standard of excellence in our community. We also want to make sure that our rating is aligned with HUD priorities and still supporting local values. The other kind of big why that we are trying to approach is it is quite well understood nationally that the NOFO we expect to see in June is what HUD published in December, on December 19th of 2025. So that's really the roadmap that many continuums are using to prepare for what's to come in June. And in that NOFO, there were some changes to point allocation requirements around of your total you score a project. 50% of that total has to be based on objective criteria, and at least 25% of that total points has to account for 3 particular measures: returns to homelessness, employment income performance, and support service participation requirements. So those are all things that we are using as a guidebook to inform the recommendations that we're putting forward today to talk about with you all.
Kelsey, excuse me one moment.
Yes.
We're still on the first slide, so I'm not sure
Oh, fiddlesticks.
if the
Oh my goodness. Okay, let me stop sharing and reshare it.
Thank you for making me laugh so hard right now.
Oi, oi, oi. Okay, let's do this screen because I think that one will go forward. Are you seeing a screen that says the why?
yes.
Yes, we are. And I learned a new word today, fiddlesticks. Thank you.
Fiddlesticks.
Oh,
No
God.
problem. I'm here for all the special words. Are you seeing, hold it, hold, I was gonna just about to, I'll give you all sorts of words. Are you seeing now HMIS data criteria? Slide.
Yes.
Things are moving? Okay,
It's
great.
moving.
Great. So I will just share, you all have these are more of the what we're doing today slides. It's okay you didn't see them. So we are going to shift into walking criteria by criteria. So want to break down the metric, so what we are evaluating, and then the point allocation. So we will talk about the current criteria and the recommended change to that criteria. So it might get a little repetitive and data heavy and detailed. So buckle up for some fun. One of the first criteria that we use is exits to permanent housing. So we evaluate programs and provide a score to those programs based upon the percentage of households that are exiting to permanent housing from that project type. Our current metric is broken down with particular benchmarks for permanent supportive housing, transitional housing, and rapid rehousing. We have the point allocation. The highest you can receive is 15 points if you are meeting or exceeding the set goal for that project. For PSH, that goal is 90% of people who exit to permanent housing. For transitional housing, the current metric is that 85% of those people who are exiting transitional housing exit to permanent housing. And rapid rehousing as well is 85% exit to permanent housing. If someone is nearing a goal, they would receive 10 points. And if someone is not meeting that expectation, so if it's less than 45% for permanent supportive housing, less than 50% for transitional housing, and less than 50% for rapid rehousing, they would not receive any points. So this is the current breakdown. We are recommending a change, number one, to increase the point total that can be received to 20 points. So if projects are being very successful in exiting households to permanent housing, that they could receive up to 20 points. This does two things. It helps to meet the 50% objective criteria rule. This is a very set measure, which is objective. And in our rating overall, speaks to the importance of stabilizing people into permanent housing. So the recommendation that we are putting forth is, again, really around the point allocation. I tried to highlight the change that we're recommending. So we're not really recommending a change to how we are measuring or evaluating meets or exceeds, nearing goal, or does not meet expectation. Rather, the recommendation here is around that point allocation alone. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is around point allocation amounts. Our next metric is unknown exits. This is the current breakdown, and this is the extent to which participants exit to an unknown destination. So if someone is leaving a project, we want to know where folks are going. So the current allocation of points is that 7 points are provided if a project has less than 5% of households are exiting to an unknown destination. If a project has more than 5% of people they're serving that exit and it's unknown, they would not receive any points. The recommendation here really is just a point increase to add 10 points to the unknown exit for those who have less than 5% to unknown exit. Again, wanting to just uplift data quality, data completeness, but particularly around understanding where folks are going from a project. This helps us to really understand in a much clearer way how our system is working and performing and supporting people. The next criteria we have is returns to homelessness. Currently, this metric measures if folks are returning to our system from a project. So it evaluates a single project. Those who exited that project, are those households or individuals returning back into our system within a set time period. Currently, the measure for youth serving programs is that we have no more than 5% of youth are returning back into homelessness. And for non-youth programs, the standard for transitional housing is 8% of people returning and 3% for rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing. For those meeting or exceeding this system target, they currently would receive 5 points. And there are no partial scores provided here. The recommendation we have is around increasing, again, the point total to 20 points. So from 5 points to 20 points. This is a large jump, primarily helping to meet the 25% of criteria rule, as returns to homelessness is one of the 3 categories that need the total of those 3 categories has to be at least 25% of the total a project can receive. So it helps us to meet that requirement as outlined in the NOFO. And it also, again, speaks to the importance of stabilizing households. So again, the recommendation for returns to homelessness, the change would be a point increase in how many points an organization or a single project can receive when it's evaluated. Want to do just a quick check-in if anyone has questions or thoughts at this moment. Yes, Marvin.
Thanks. Since the requests are for point totals, what's the prevailing thought around whether we can receive them or not? Or is this being echoed by other COCs, or this is just our approach?
This is our approach. So I have been looking at other COCs. The information that's currently available and that folks really have online is around their scoring metrics for FY24. So there's not really a lot that's publicly available around what folks have used for FY25 or are thinking. Have been in conversation spaces around that, but we'll likely see more that's available as other continuums are publishing information, probably come May, June, to see are other places kind of doing a similar point allocation as we are. Yeah, but really the blueprint has really been, what do we have that exists?
Okay.
What is the guidance from the 25 December NOFO from HUD? And how are we kind of using those 2 things to develop something that makes sense for FY26?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other kind of questions or thoughts before we move forward? All right, I will continue us on our way. So the next criteria that we have used and the current evaluation metric is around exits with earned income. The current metric is the extent to which adults in the program exit with employment income. The HUD metrics is that 20% of households exit with earned income. This is currently at 3 points if more than 20% of those households who exit with earned income. Now, this one has a huge recommended point increase from 3 to 20. This is, again, part of one of those 3 criteria that HUD states needs to encompass 25% of a total score that a project can receive. The point increase is to help meet that 25% criteria rule and speaks to that the importance of connecting people to ongoing self-sufficiency and stability, which we anticipate being a priority in the NOFO for FY26. And again, a note that HUD has set that 20% threshold for households exiting with earned income. So again, the change here would not be on the metric, but the point allocation, that for projects where more than 20% of the households who exit, of the adults, exited with earned income. We also evaluate currently exits with non-earned income. These are the extent to which adults in that program who exit with cash income from other sources, such as TANF, SSDI, SSI, ABD, or non-cash. So they came in without food assistance and they exit with food assistance. They came in without Medicaid and they exit with Medicaid, that they were connected to a non-earned income source. Currently, the point allocation is 3 points if more than 95% of people exit with non-earned income. The recommendation is to do a little bump, to do it 5 points for those who exit with non-earned income. The next criteria is exits with no financial resources. The metric to evaluate this is that no more than 10% of those who exit a project exit with no financial resources. So that includes cash or non-cash resources. The current point allocation is 3 points to projects where fewer than 10% of participants exit with no income or no financial resources at all. Similar to the exits with non-earned income, recommending a bump in this from 3 points to 5 points for projects that meet that threshold of fewer than 10% exiting with no income or financial resources. The next metric we have, again, I'm going to be very repetitive here a little bit, y'all. I hope you're staying with me. Our next criteria is participants served. So currently, the point allocation, you can get 10 points if 100% of the population in your program that you're serving is coming from a homelessness situation. So streets and or unsheltered emergency shelter. We are recommending for this a slight point change from actually 10 points to 5 points around this metric. Part of that is to make sure we're meeting the 25%. So areas where we have to increase points, we need to decrease so we can keep a balance in what the overall criteria is looking like to make sure we're meeting that 25% of points come from 3 measures. So this is one area where we bump to help meet that 25% threshold. The next area is on data quality and completeness. So this is different than the unknown exits. This is about overall data quality. So this is on every, for a project, every entry in that project and all of the data that they are entering for their project. The aim is that no more than 5% of all of the required fields are missing or not collected. So we want to see really high quality data. This does not include personal identifying information. So that is not included in this evaluation. The current point allocation is 7 points if the project overall has less than 5% of the universal data elements that are missing. So either not collected, client doesn't know, client refused. Those are the responses in HMIS that can be collected. The recommendation, similar to the participant served, is to decrease this a little bit to 5 points, again, to support meeting that overall 25% of points coming from 3 data elements. A measure we are not recommending any change is on occupancy and capacity, recommending that we keep what we have here. This is the extent to which our project maintains occupancy or capacity in the project. 5 points if your occupancy rate over the time period is 95% or more. 3 points if it's 90 to 94%. 2 points if it's 85 to 89%. And then no points if the occupancy is less than 85%. For rapid rehousing, this is based on the move-in rate, so that the total number of clients you are serving, that 95% move into housing, that et cetera, et cetera. Those are all of the existing HMIS data criteria that we are aiming to either make a slight point allocation change. And next, I'm going to move into some new things, and then we'll switch to non-HMIS based data. So a new measure that we are aiming to include is exits to unsubsidized housing. So this is aiming to align our rating of projects with the HUD priority of promoting self-sufficiency. This is adding in a new metric that HUD may use to evaluate CoCs. So recommending that the metric be that a project demonstrates that at least 20% of participants who exit from transitional housing or rapid rehousing exit to unsubsidized housing. We recommend the point allocation that if the project has at least 20% of participants that exit to unsubsidized housing, it would be 5 points that they could receive. Before we go into our non-HMIS data criteria, want to again pause to see if there's any questions, thoughts, a metric you want to go back to. Yes, Victoria.
Yeah, I was just curious if there was any consideration of giving points more along like a gradation rather than like all or nothing, and what the thought process was around that.
Yes, for some, we do have the gradation here. For others, we don't. And part of this is using the metric that's existed. Similar, so the data completeness, it was 7 points or no points. For the metrics that are, I'm going to go back to one that has a more of a gradation. Oh, did we not do that in here? We have that for exit to permanent housing, we do have for nearing goal. And really for the HMIS metrics, this is modeling after what we've had. So welcome if we should be looking at more of a range. So for example, looking at the unknown exits, if we had like they have between 5 and 7% of their point allocate of exits are unknown, should that be 5 points? So would love to hear from you all if that's something to consider, to add in more of that, go away from the all or nothing and more to a graduated scale.
I think particularly on the metrics which have a very high point total, it would probably have a big influence. So I'd be curious to at least explore that.
Great. Great. I am going to quickly pull up a place to just take some of the notes for that feedback. Those with higher score include more gradated. Great. Other thoughts on that from other committee members?
I think this Tamara, I support that. Just because the nature of unknown, we're not necessarily sure what's going on in somebody's life. If they have to leave the system for whatever reason, you know, we should be considerate of that. So I do like the idea of the gradation. And thank you for that word.
Great. Awesome. I will add that to notes for us to be looking at including in our point allocations. Any other thoughts or comments before we move into the non-HMIS data? Okay, I will move us forward. These are, I've been framing it as fact-based rating. It's not based on a narrative, not based on, you know, qualitative information. So bear with me in my naming semantics. So these are, again, the metrics and point allocations for mostly new measures. This is not a new measure. We give points based upon the program component that the actual project is. And it's decently straightforward. Permanent supportive housing projects receive 14 points. Rapid rehousing projects receive 12. A joint component that is a combination of transitional housing and rapid rehousing receives 10. Transitional housing receives 8. Safe havens receive 8. And then we call YHDP or youth homelessness demonstration projects that are supportive services only receive 6 points. The point allocation is based on the type of component the project is. We have a slight recommendation for change, really to support a local priority for permanent housing projects and permanent supportive housing projects, to aim to reflect the value that in Seattle-King County, we value permanent housing and permanent supportive housing as an important intervention to ending homelessness. So based on that, we have a recommendation to, again, pretty slightly change the point allocation. So permanent supportive housing would go from 14 points to 15. Rapid rehousing would go from 10 to 12, or from 12 to 10 as a permanent housing option. Joint component projects would also be at 10 points. They'd maintain the 10 points. Transitional housing would be 5 points. Safe havens would be 5 points. And then just calling things support services only, taking out the YHDP specificity to be 5 points. Part of this is to, again, demonstrate that in Seattle-King County, we kind of uphold that permanent supportive housing is a very important intervention in our continuum. We next have a program population priority, and this criteria currently provides points for what population your project is aiming to serve. 3 points are provided if 100% of your project is dedicated to or prioritized for those experiencing chronic homelessness. 1 point is provided if 100% of the project is dedicated to the other listed population types, which are youth and young adults, recovery-based, elders and seniors, and households fleeing domestic violence or sex trafficking. This one we have both a point allocation recommendation and some language change update to align with HUD priorities that we anticipate seeing. One is to allow for projects to receive points for multiple population types, knowing that there are programs that may serve folks who are fleeing domestic violence and elders. So wanting to account for the nuance of populations that may be served in one program. We're also recommending changing chronic to unsheltered to align with the likely prioritization of unsheltered homelessness in the NOFO. So what we are recommending is that you would receive the allocated points for each of the projects that, or each of the populations that your project serves, so that you have units or program is dedicated or prioritizes unsheltered persons is 3 points still. Units that would serve youth and young adults would be 1 point, an additional 1 point. So if you serve both unsheltered persons and it's youth and adults, you could get 3 points total, or 4 points. Oh my gosh, I can't do math right now, y'all. We would also have that your program has units or your program operates as recovery based. This is a typo. This should be 1 point. Pardon me. No, I think it is 3 points. I'm not remembering math right now. I think it's only supposed to be 1 point. I'm going to confirm this with you all. I think the total is up to 12. And my brain is not mathing right now. Oh, it's up to 11. Yes, this is correct. I'm just going to externally process for everyone here. We've included this to be 3 points as we also intend to see an emphasis for recovery-based housing and treatment first options. So wanting to give this an additional point allocation for that alignment. Units that serve elders, seniors, and or disabled persons, we wanted to give that also 3 points as an increase to units that are dedicated for this population to also kind of align with what we anticipate seeing in the NOFO and have language alignment. And then programs or units that are serving participants who are fleeing domestic violence or sex trafficking would be another additional 1 point. So if we had a program that has units or their program is dedicated to all of these populations in some way, shape, or form, they could get up to 11 points. So wanted to just account for, again, the complication and nuance of identity and how programs operate in real functioning. We also have currently an evaluation on project expenditures. So this is the extent to which a project spent 100% of their money. And currently it is 3 points if you spend or you underspend less than 10% of your total funds. 1 point if your underspend is over 10% but less than 25%. And then no points if the project underspent by over 25% of their grant. So they left money on the table. We do recommend a point allocation change. This is to get 15 and an increase as well, because there is kind of an increased look at projects that are spending well and effectively using federal dollars. And we want to make sure we are evaluating that with an eye that is a little extra thoughtful. So we would say that 15 points would be awarded to projects that underspend less than 5% of their grant or their total award that they receive. 10 points would be provided if that underspend is between 6 and 10%. 5 points if underspend is between 11 and 20%. And then no points if underspend on the grant is over 20%. A new metric we are wanting to account for is timely reporting of the annual performance report. This is evaluated by HUD and is a priority in how HUD evaluates projects and may award funds to COCs. So we want to put an additional emphasis on kind of the administrative components of receiving CoC funding. So the metric is, did you submit your reports on time? Yes, 10 points. Otherwise, it would be a no points awarded. The other one that we are wanting to include, and again, is a metric that HUD uses to evaluate an individual CoC project and whether or not to continue awarding that project, is whether or not there are findings or recommendations from monitoring. So there would be 10 points awarded to a project that has no findings or recommendations that remain open with no partial points. And Victoria, I will include your recommendation around gradient scoring with these components as well. The other new component, and want to be very clear, this one may go away depending on what we see in the FY26 NOFO. It is currently one of the required metrics that needs to be 25% of the score that a project can receive. This is one that I have a big asterisk because it's not clear if this will still be included in the NOFO we see published. But the current recommendation for this would be evidence that a project requires engagement per 24 CFR 578.75H. We will include details. This is, does the program mandate participation in services such as case management? The point allocation would be 20 points if a project provides evidence or their actual participation agreement that they require participants to engage in case management and other supportive services. And then no partial points, which again, looking at the gradient scoring, so we will take that into review for update. We have kind of breezed through things a little bit, y'all. But want to give you at least a review of kind of what the next steps are going to be for us. So KCRJ staff is going to take recommendations and input that we received from you all today and kind of make some further changes and some further updates. In May, we aim to have a review of new project rating, how we evaluate new projects. We'll likely hold on to the application-based rating until we see the NOFO come, because that's really where we're going to get some of the application information. This is the narrative questions that we ask of projects to respond to. We'll likely give a preview of what that could look like in May as well. And we'll also provide an overview of updates to scoring, particularly the point allocations in May as well. June is the time for hopefully a vote on final rating criteria. Again, depending upon when the FY25 NOFO does get published, this could be into July, but we are anticipating doing this in June. That's what I've got for you. Would love to hear if there's further input, questions, etc. Do things make sense to you? Are there any things that you're thinking about more?
Kelsey, this is Daniel.
Yeah.
I wanted to just point out that the APR submission timely. You and I should talk a little bit about that because I know sometimes the official HUD submission date can be a little different than when the program turns
Yep.
that in on time. Okay, you've already been thinking about that. That's great. That was one thing that caught my attention. I thought we could work through that easily. So great.
Yep.
And then I think the other thing I'm thinking about, working with everyone on this committee, I'm thinking about how you each represent different interests, different groups. No decision, like Kelsey said, to make today, but
Mhm.
I want to encourage you to look at this afterwards, talk to your constituents, talk to the people in your orbit, show them this. Because this really will be how we allocate resources as we move forward in time in a resource constrained world.
Mhm.
And this is, I think we'll feel the effects of whatever, how HUD orients this NOFO. It will have some real world impacts. And, we don't know what the future is for allocation. There's just a lot of unknowns, is what I'm saying there. Not to raise anxiety, there's just unknowns. So please socialize this is my ask of you all. And if you have particular questions on any one of those measures, how they're calculated, I will be the one that you can contact at any time, and I can walk you through that so you feel really competent in that. You can explain it to the people that you're talking to. I'm here to serve you, to make you a leader and being able to explain this to the people that you represent. So I just want to make that small pitch there. And thank you, Kelsey, for allowing me to kind of take the floor for a second.
Of course. Thanks, Daniel. And Marvin, I see your hand as well. Oh, taking it down.
Yeah, I'm going to follow Daniel a bit. It's a lot of information to digest.
Yes. Yes.
So always immediate questions aren't the most helpful ones. However, I always thank Daniel for giving us a place to ask these questions before June. We think of it as being a long way away, but in my experience around here, 2 months goes by in the snap of a finger. And if we haven't asked the questions, then we can't give input on how things are rolling out. So thank you.
Yes.
That's my two.
Absolutely.
More
Yep.
questions, please.
Yes. And welcome as you review things, as you kind of sit from this presentation and review, and things come up. Please send those. I think Daniel's way, he can filter things to me. You can also send things directly to myself. But really do want to get your thoughts, your thinking as the system performance committee of are these the way we should go? One thing I'm thinking, based upon Victoria, your comment around score impact, we could I will say I will check in with our research and data team about running sample rating of what would score distribution look like with gradient scoring and without gradient scoring, so we see what those impacts are. And we can also look at what are the current metrics versus new metrics. So if there's other things that you all would want to see to help kind of further inform you all, we can work on those pieces. Yeah, Tamara.
I am very interested in like prevention, and what we're doing or what efforts are being done or planned for that focuses on upstream, like resource pooling and data analysis, and like how involved the community is, meaning like the board members and the larger membership. Are we anticipating having moments together to like critically look at the NOFO and the applications, and maybe cross walk or cross reference with the values and priorities that we have voted and approved for, just so like we're consistently aligning our soul work with the work of the system.
Yep. Two main thoughts. Questions around prevention and upstream work largely come in the consolidated application part. So that's the narrative that, as a CoC, how are we performing? And typically the question on reducing first-time homelessness. So I think that will be the area to really dig into what is happening and what is going on. When it comes to the funding application and rating piece, prevention's not a funded project type. So the evaluation piece that we're talking about, prevention would be outside of it. But I think where you're talking is really in our what is happening within our CoC related to preventing, largely it will be around first-time homelessness, related to the NOFO and CoC. In my little tunnel visioned piece as a system, other things to say, but that is kind of outside the scope of right now.
Kelsey, this is Daniel again. Just a quick question about, could you remind the group on the total amount that we're expecting in awards? I know we don't have a crystal ball, but what is that total amount that we're likely going to be dividing up in the tier 1 and potentially tier 2 programs?
Yep. So again, all of my numbers are going to be based on fiscal year 24 awards because we have not received all of the information for fiscal year 25, which is what HUD would use to predict fiscal year 26. So lots of fun little, number game for you all. Our annual renewal demand for fiscal year 24 is just over $65 million. Of that $65 million, that's for renewing projects. So that is dedicated money that is currently going to funded projects. We anticipate having 60% of that 65 million being in what is called tier 1, which is the more secure funding that would come back to our community. So we can have 60% of 65 million, which is about $39 million. Projects that total up to that may be pretty securely renewed. The other 40% of that $65 million may land in what is anticipated to be tier 2. Tier 2 are projects that would go into our national competition, and the renewal of those would depend upon what HUD is calling a merit review score. So how is our continuum performing comparatively to other continuums? And if we are higher performing based on that merit review, then we may get more of that 40% of projects funded. Again, these are speculative numbers, so please don't think this is the final. I'm speculating 60% as this was the minimum that is spoken about in the T-HUD Appropriations Act for 2026. That HUD cannot put less than 60% into what is considered tier 1. There may be additional funds that we can compete for. Those additional funds will be determined by HUD and announced then. Previously, it's been anywhere from $5 million to $10 million for possible new projects. And we'll talk about how we want to rate and evaluate those new projects in May. That's a lot of words and numbers.
Thank you, Kelsey. No, that's good education for me too. I appreciate you bringing it the amount of dollars that we're talking about.
Yeah.
A large amount of money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Other questions, comments? And again, as and if things come to you, please forward those questions on so that we can include that in revisions. This is a first draft, not a final draft. Well, y'all, I deeply appreciate you dedicating this meeting and space on this topic. That is what I have for you today. around our HMIS and other data-based criteria. I will pass it back to Christina if there is other business you all want to get to, or giving time back to everyone here. Thank you again, and also if you have more thoughts, please send that our way.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Yeah, this is Daniel. I'm not sure if Christina wants to take the lead here. Please feel free to. I just want to
I
mention to the
gotta
group that this.
unmute her. I need to
Oh,
unmute
okay, I see. This was all that we had for the agenda today to really allow for some slow time to talk about it. I know it's always nice to get time back. So if we want to do that in process, that's great. Otherwise, I think we have some really good experienced and committee members here with some deep expertise in the your different domains. I'm thinking, Ben, you're currently in highest level of education. You're learning a lot, I'm sure. Victoria has a lot of experience. Sherry with contracting. I do want to kind of promote us to talk a little bit about this, and even if it's tangential or not exactly about this, what we measure, what we measure is what we manage. What we hold these programs to account for is what we're asking them to do. How are you all feeling about that? I know that's very open-ended. I do want to try to elevate your voices here.
Camara has a question.
Yeah, actually, I'm more excited to talk about at the next planning meeting, the skills assessment that had floated around before, and where to really tap into people's greatest strengths and utilize them, so we're not spinning our wheels and we're actually being a little bit more efficient in how we do our meetings, and follow up on the work, while for at least for me, while being as disengaged from things like Robert's rules. I just think that there should be some measure of I don't know. I just lost my train of thought, but I think my point was, like, how can we utilize everyone's strengths to the best of our abilities, so that we're like putting our best foot forward as a CoC body and as system performance innovators.
Daniel, I don't know. Christina seems to, I don't know if she was disconnected or we didn't unmute her fast enough, but she doesn't appear to be on the Zoom anymore. Can you text her or call her and say, does she still want to get in?
Yeah, let me see if I can get a hold of her. If we don't have quorum, I mean, we won't be able to make any decisions if there's any on the table. Let me see if I can get a hold of her. And it seems like people are still processing, so I don't want to. I want to check in with Christina to make sure we want to end the meeting. But it seems like if folks are dropping off, I just saw Ruby drop off, Christina drop off.
We
We might
have
need
six
to.
people. We have six.
We have six. Okay. Let me try to get a hold of Christina there. In the meantime, if someone wants to unmic and just kind of free associate here about what you've heard. And I think Tamara, what you're bringing up there is very important, which is what can you do right now with what you heard? If you don't feel like you're that strong in understanding the performance metrics and how to give input, maybe there's something else that you can bring to the table. You can bring it forward to your network. Maybe it's about socializing it, drawing on what you think you can do to help us pull this off as successfully as we can in our area. In the meantime, I'm going to try to get a hold of Christine.
Is in the
Yeah, this is Tamara. I remember when Bella was the co-chair with Marvin. And I'm just like, just for like institutional knowledge and history, I think that's where this skills assessment originated. And I remember participating in like completing the questionnaire, and I love questionnaires. But I really appreciated the intentional outreach and the intentional way of trying to organize the work based on, you know, the role we play in, I guess, I'm thinking of something Pacifica related, but in the canoe of justice, who's holding which paddle, and can we uh you- mobilize and like you use our paddles together collectively going forward and in the same direction. Uh, that's my metaphor for the day.
Maybe I missed it. Do we still have items on our agenda today?
Sorry, someone keeps messing with my settings and knocking me off and out, so I apologize to everybody for that. On been frustrating. But for today, that was our big discussion, was the NOFO, and any feedback y'all want to provide. Otherwise, no, that's all we put on today's agenda. Unless there's anything anybody wants to discuss. Okay, hearing none, I will give the last oh my goodness, 37 minutes back to you all. And after this, I'm now going to send an email out seeing what else other people would like to maybe discuss, work on their band. I know a couple of you already said your bandwidth is already full, so I don't expect anything back from, just seeing if anybody has anything they want to work on, etc. So expect an email in 2 weeks from me about that. Otherwise, y'all have a mighty fine rest of your April. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.